Don't kill all of them.
Good evening. I'll call this meeting to order. Mr. Miller, will you lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, if you'll call the roll.
Councilmember Bruins,
Present.
Councilmember Daniels,
Here.
Councilmember Miller,
Here.
Vice Mayor Schaefer,
Here.
and Mayor Middleton.
Here.
This meeting of the Citrus Heights City Council is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast Consolidated Communications and AT&T Uverse cable systems. This meeting is closed caption and live streamed at citrusheights.net. Tonight's meeting replays on Monday, August 29th at 9 a.m. on Channel 14. This meeting can also be viewed at the city's YouTube channel.
Next item.
Next item is approval of agenda.
Approval.
Second. Motion by Daniels, second by Miller. All those in favor?
Aye. Next item is public comment. Members of the public may address the council on any agenda item of interest to the public and within the council's purview, or on any agenda item before or during the council's consideration of the item. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes each. If you wish to address the council during the meeting, please either complete a speaker identification sheet and give it to myself. If participating via Zoom, use the raise hand function or *9 from a telephone to indicate your desire to speak. When your name is called, I will allow you to unmute your microphone to speak.
You have any public comment from Zoom?
Yes, I do have one public comment from Zoom. Would you like to take that one first? Okay. Lisa Strange, you can now unmute yourself to speak for 3 minutes.
Great, thank you so much. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mayor, council members, and city clerk. My name is Lisa Strange, and I'm speaking today on behalf of the California Department of Insurance, Community Relations and Outreach Branch. I wanted to share 2 resources that I think would benefit the city of Citrus Heights and its residents. The first is the California Low Cost Automobile Insurance Program, which was established by the legislature in 1999 as a state-sponsored program that requires insurance companies to offer affordable liability auto insurance to licensed drivers that meet certain requirements. To be eligible for the program, consumers must have a valid California driver's license, own a vehicle valued at $25,000 or less, meet income eligibility guidelines, be at least 16 years of age, and have a good driving record. The annual premiums in California vary by county. In Sacramento, you can get this insurance for as low as $317 per year. If you want to see if you qualify or locate a certified agent in your local area, folks can visit mylowcostauto.com or call 866-602-8861. And then the second resource that I wanted to share is called the Senior Gateway. And it is a website which is a one-stop shop for seniors, their families, and caregivers. It's a partnership between many government agencies with everything in one spot. We realized a couple years ago that lots of agencies are running websites to help folks, but it's, you'd have to go to each different website. So we came together and made one spot. On this portal, you will find information on topics such as avoiding and reporting abuse and neglect, preventing fraud, financial abuse, and common scams, as well as healthcare information. And that website is seniors.ca.gov. And I just wanted to leave you tonight with this. If you have questions about your current insurance policy, a new policy, or you've been denied coverage, a claim, or canceled, you can call our consumer hotline at 800-927-4357 or visit our website. Again, it's the California Department of Insurance at www.insurance.ca.gov. And I also wanted to say that I did mail some low-cost auto Iraq cards as well as some senior gateway postcards. So I want to thank Brenda Anderson for helping me get those to you folks. So if you have those, great. And if you need more, please let me know. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mayor? Yes.
Could we ask her to repeat on the low-cost auto, the website and the phone number again?
Certainly. I'm mylowcostauto.com. And the phone number is 866-602-8861.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have 3 speaker cards. One is for item 8, and I have 2 that are just general comment. If I could have Thomas Spencer, followed by Michael Largamacino.
Oh, it is on. Okay. I don't know. It's been a while. Hello, my name's Thomas Spencer. I'm a citizen of Citrus Heights. Thank you for having and hearing me, council members. Boy, this thing is low. I'm here today to speak about a topic which came out of a discussion of Area 5 meeting last Thursday. Consensus of the attendees felt it might be a good idea if the city, as a promotional and a connection, and just to kind of clean up things a little bit, might have a name, and we can't call it anything because it doesn't have a designation, but the green area on Greenback that's we put in there where Up and Away is, if you were around in those days. I call it a green area. It doesn't have a designation. And the members of the meeting thought it would be great to have a name the park or something along that lines. And I thought giving it a designation would be very useful for just being able to discuss it throughout city business. So that is what I'm here for. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Otherwise, I thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you. Michael Largamacino.
Good afternoon, members of City Council. My reason for being up here actually has very little to do with the City Council, but it has to do with the upcoming election. As a former president of the Reach Board and a Reach Board member for the last 13, 14, or 15 years, I can't remember when I started, and a neighborhood association president. This year we have 3 distinct districts having elections, and I believe we have 9 candidates at this time. I wish to remind the candidates, the Reach Board, and the neighborhood associations that they may not endorse any member that are running for the City Council as a body. However, and neither may the candidates expect that endorsement. Individually, they're perfectly willing, or they're perfectly allowed to endorse separately as individuals, but they cannot endorse as a body. Every once in a while, we do have where there's a little violation. I'm just going to remind them that that law is written, or not law, but that is written to each one of the bylaws of the neighborhood association and the Reach Board itself. As I said, individually, you can support any candidate you wish, but as a body, you may not. So thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Next item is presentation number 4, presentation by Sacramento Area Council of Governments on the 2024 Blueprint, the Big Picture, Long Range Regional Planning.
Evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Tonight, James Corliss, the Executive Director of SACOG, will provide a short presentation and answer any council questions on the 2024 blueprint. The presentation will highlight how a triple bottom line approach that strives to advance co-equal goals in equity, economy, and environment is imperative to prepare the region to meet the complex growth and mobility challenges we all face in the coming decades. The presentation will also provide an overview of the opportunities SACOG is creating to allow for public and stakeholder involvement in the regional planning process, and a glimpse into the many programs that SACOG has available or is developing to support public agencies in the implementation of the region's vision for the future. And with that, I will turn it over to James Corliss for the presentation.
Thank you very much, Mayor Middleton, council members. Good evening. Nice to be here. Excellent introduction. I really just am here to give you a bit of a preview for this big upcoming long-range plan for the region that will literally go all the way out to 2050, if you can imagine this region in 2050. But it's a big deal. And this plan in particular, this is, again, it's a preview tonight, and I'm going to talk a little bit about a few of the initiatives that we think are super exciting that are already implementing our last plan and that I think your city and your staff have taken great advantage of in the last few years. We'll be back next year in 2023 with all of the public engagement and a lot of the work around this plan. So pleasure to be here. It's great to have Mayor Middleton represent Citrus Heights on the SACOG Board of Directors. Just remind everybody and those in the audience and viewing at home, we're a pretty unique regional agency in that we cover a lot of area, 6 counties, 22 cities. And for a regional agency that's this big and covers this much territory, every single local government has a seat on our board. That is very unusual. You don't find that a lot either in California or around the United States. So twice a month, we come together in committees and a full board to largely work on growth and mobility and air quality and quality of life issues and this upcoming plan. So it has a long name that we used to use an acronym, MTPSCS. We try not to use acronyms, so that's the last time you'll hear me say that tonight. I hope we're rebranding it Blueprint because the plan should be adopted in 2024, and that'll be the 20th anniversary of the original regional blueprint that this region came together on and adopted back in 2004, which was a voluntary compact, a voluntary vision for how this region should grow, phase its growth, balance between revitalizing existing neighborhoods, revitalizing suburbs and new greenfield. And that was a really important plan, took several years to create 20 years ago, in part because from very far-sighted people back then, showed the region a vision of the future that did not look good. It looked like it was choked with traffic, that infrastructure wasn't keeping up with growth, and it didn't look good to any of the policymakers or the residents 20 years ago. And so they came up with a blueprint. I want to remind you, that was a bottom-up visionary document. And again, we're branding this next plan the blueprint because we feel like we need to be about as visionary as we were back in 2004. Now, you probably all know this, and maybe you know this if you're at the supermarket or on the roads or anywhere else. We are a fast-growing region. The last census in 2020 actually pegs us in California as a 6-county region, as the fastest growing region in California. So that's unusual. And the coastal cities and the coastal regions are beginning to lose population. And again, that we've seen even the pandemic accelerate that trend, right? People moving to this region, people moving to the foothills, to Tahoe. And now even our economy is really elongated over into the Reno, Nevada region from the Bay Area. So we're a fast growing region, but if you look out to 2050 in the last 10 to 15 years, we believe we are going to slow. The forecasts are that our growth will slow. It'll be fast in the next decade, and it will begin to slow. There is still a lot of growth ahead of us. We are not a shrinking region, but it's a really interesting demographic trend that we're seeing all over the United States, and we'll probably keep going pretty fast. But again, last 10 to 15 years of that plan horizon, 2035 to 2050, our growth rate will slow. As was said, the framework for this plan is really one of balancing these goals around equity, access to opportunity, economic prosperity, and environmental sustainability. I think all goals that are very relevant to your community. We are largely known for transportation, and for all kinds of reasons, even though we're a council of governments, our JPA bylaws say we come together to solve problems on behalf of the region. The tools which we are given are largely transportation and really technical assistance around housing and economic development. So that's kind of how you know us, and maybe even primarily for transportation. I think, again, over the last few years, since I've been here 5 years now, your staff has taken great advantage of a lot of our funding programs. The Auburn Boulevard reinvestment and complete streets work has been funded. I also believe that some of the work around Safe Routes to School and some of the elementary schools here have been funded. We just provided a competitive grant award to the city for retail to rooftops to really reimagine some of your infill housing opportunities. But again, transportation is sort of maybe our bread and butter, the thing we're known for. We will have another funding round for transportation coming up this fall. So stay tuned for that. And I think I don't have to tell you about the challenges that are ahead in transportation. Another challenge I will put on the table for you is, and I know there's going to be an initiative on the ballot coming up in November that will look to levy a 0.5-cent sales tax increase for transportation purposes. Even if that passes, we have to think lean, and we have to think that we're on a budget in this region for transportation. We got to think smarter. We have to think more creatively to get people from point A to point B, because we will never have the resources to be able to build everything we say we want to build, right? So we got to get smarter about what we do. It may mean that rather than a lot of light rail extensions, we're going to have some of them, don't worry, but rather than everywhere with light rail, it might be that we're looking at rapid buses. We're looking at signal timing and arterial improvements. It maybe we're looking at technology and autonomous vehicles and shared mobility. Those are the answers that I think are maybe more cost effective. But transportation is a big part of this upcoming blueprint plan. And we're working very closely with your staff on what are the investment projects and the reinvestment, revitalization, safety projects throughout your community that are really important. I said this plan will be different. And in part, it'll be different because starting next year in 2023, when we come back around to you and really the community and the residents, we want to get people engaged. We want to provide some pretty distinct what we call pathways or alternative futures that the region can begin to see. Okay, what if we, and just per my next slide, what if we had an outward, what if we didn't invest in our existing neighborhoods? What if our existing neighborhoods, even our suburbs, struggled and we went more of an outward growth trajectory? What if greenfield development was faster than sort of revitalization of existing places? What if for some of our, not just cities, but our suburbs lost population? And the sort of the light blue here is kind of the future growth areas or the more recently developing growth areas, and the dark blue, of course, are the existing communities. So in this case, I don't have the results yet, but pathway one would focus about only 40% on sort of revitalizing existing urban and suburban communities and 60% on an outward growth trajectory. And you can see here from the different sort of alternatives, alternative two is about 2/3 existing communities, 1/3 new development, and then scenario three with a very big emphasis on revitalizing existing cities and suburbs. Our blueprint that I mentioned back from 2004 was really a balanced portfolio between urban infill, suburban revitalization, and phased greenfield development that doesn't get ahead of our ability to provide infrastructure. Now, that's not easy to do, but that's the strategy that we've had on the books for 20 years. And when I mentioned in 2023, we're going to need your help and we want to get your residents involved, we mean that. And I'm happy to come back here and stand at the dais, but really we want to go to where people are. We want your help and your ideas about how to go to community events and farmers markets and flea markets and wherever we can get out and actually talk to people, get a sense of their priorities, how they see transportation, housing growth, quality of life, safety issues. That's what we want to do next year. So again, a little bit of the timing on the plan. This is really the setup year. We're doing a lot of work with your staff. This is a very complicated and somewhat technical exercise because this plan is the plan we need at the state level and the federal level to be able to compete for competitive dollars, for transportation dollars, housing dollars. We need this plan, and we need it to be blessed by the Air Resources Board, state agencies at the state level in California, and the feds as well. So 2023, a big year for education and outreach. Those three pathways, alternative growth scenarios. We'll be doing elected official information sessions, as well as a lot of resident and community engagement. Our board of directors will be picking a preferred pathway towards the middle to late in the year of 23, and then we're looking at a 2024 adoption of our plan. So that's what's coming. That's the setup and my pitch about how important that is. And I want to just reference a few things here that are the initiatives, because the plan can kind of feel a little far away, or the future, or I can't imagine 2050. I'm happy if I'm here in 2050, right? But what's happening today? So we've got, I think, some really exciting initiatives, and many of you have been aware of these or part of these. So I'm just going to run through a few of them, because part of our job is to take that big plan and our aspirations and translate them into something where we can go get state funding and federal funding. We can convince the legislature and Congress that we are investment ready, that we are worthy of investment. This is a really interesting effort that we have. I mentioned the sort of the decline in the growth rates in the coasts and the fast-paced growth here in the Sacramento region, which certainly can be a double-edged sword. But we are working very closely with our counterparts in the San Francisco 9-county Bay Area and northern San Joaquin Valley and the San Joaquin Council of Governments and a mega region working group. We've identified 12 projects across our 16 counties. I mentioned before this kind of, if you think of 50 and 80, that's really the elongation of our economy in Northern California. And partly what we want to do too, as the Bay Area continues to experience very high housing costs, is we want to be partly an alternative for companies to move here, right? We want to get office up here. We want to get workers up here. We don't want them moving out of state. We want a lot of our companies to think of this mega region as a much more affordable, mobile mega region, 16 counties with a great quality of life. So to do that, we're looking at transportation investments here that I think are pretty exciting. In about 12 to 18 months, we'll have the ACE rail from from Silicon Valley, San Jose, Tri-Valley, up through Stockton, extended into Sacramento, actually up to the Sacramento International Airport, with a study underway right now to go north to Marysville and Chico. The Capitol Corridor, which I know you're involved in, very exciting. One of the most high ridership of the Amtrak corridors in our country, connects the South Bay, the East Bay, Oakland, with Sassoon, Fairfield, UC Davis, Sacramento. We're providing with partners investing in a third track between Sacramento and Roseville to basically get 10 to 12 trains a day up to Roseville, then Auburn, and another feasibility study going across the top to Truckee and then Reno. So if you think about those two kind of passenger rail armatures, this isn't high-speed rail. This is just medium-speed effective rail that people will ride and that we can get faster and can connect us again to the northern San Joaquin Valley and the Silicon Valley. We're also looking at I-5, I-80. We have got a project in partnership with Placer County to look at investments in this I-80 corridor right here, going across into the international airport. So there's a lot of exciting stuff happening in this mega region working group. I know you guys have fabulous trails in Citrus Heights. You've been a big part of developing a regional trail vision to connect every single community across 6 counties with trails. So imagine in the future, you could get on a bike, electric bike, scooter, skateboard, wheelchair, without being on a busy road, cross a few busy roads, but among every single community in this region. It's a game changer. And frankly, if you look at the trail network now, and again, I know you got great trails in Citrus Heights, we've got the American River Parkway, we've got some great trails all over the region, but they are disconnected. They don't actually connect. They don't get people where they want to go. So this is obviously a sort of a stylized version on our website, is a much more detailed version. And I will just tell you, if I look at that and I sort of zoom back, Citrus Heights you're in the middle of the whole thing. You're in the middle of Placer County, El Dorado County. The many trails come through your city, and I think it's a really exciting thing as a parent of 3 teenagers, I'm tired of driving them places. I want them to have a safe place to get. And if we had more trails, I'd be a happier person. So just a few more. I mentioned the 3 E's: equity, economy, environment. We're working very closely with a lot of our economic partners, Greater Sacramento Economic Council, Sacramento Asian Pacific Chamber, and the Metro Chamber. We launched and developed a prosperity strategy for the 6-county region. And basically that strategy says we can no longer rely on being a government town. I probably don't have to convince you of that, but it is not an economy that is going to last or is sustainable. Instead, we have to be intentional about at least 3 sectors that we think are already emerging and going to pop. One is food and ag tech. The second is biotech, health and life sciences. And the third is advanced mobility. So those 3 really should be our play in this entire region. And I can talk a little bit more about that, but I think there's some really exciting, again, the sort of the technology coming out of Silicon Valley, especially for transportation, autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles, can be deployed here. We can be a test bed. We can be a place for pilot projects because we are the perfect region for that. And then finally, I'll end here. Our next generation of leaders someday sitting in my seat and your seats around the SACOG board table, right, will be this generation of high school students. We run a youth leadership academy for high school students across the 6 counties. And it's pretty awesome to see high school students mingle and mix with other high school students from counties that they've never even, they don't know much about, right? Actually, there's a great project in we've done 4 years of this. Our first year, some youth up in Yuba County and Marysville did a project to re-envision the old downtown Marysville Hotel. And now they just launched a proposal to actually turn that hotel back into housing. Those kids had a vision. Obviously, a lot of the elected leaders followed through on that. We definitely have kids from Citrus Heights and students from Citrus Heights participate. We're about to go recruit the next class of these students. And if any of you want to come talk to them, they love it when elected officials come talk and tell them about your journey in public service. We have members of Congress and state legislators, and this is really a chance to get kids excited about the future because frankly, it is these folks who we are planning for in those long-range plans. So with that, thanks for having me. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming tonight. It's exciting news. And I just wanted to acknowledge where it all started back 20 years ago when our very own first mayor, Bill Hughes, was one of the proponents, advocates, and founding members of the blueprint. And it's nice to see how far you've come. You would be very happy.
That's fantastic.
One request. Can I get a copy of your presentation?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
To study it.
Really. We can send you all kinds of stuff. We'll definitely get you a presentation.
Be careful what you ask James
Be
for.
careful what you
Yeah.
ask for.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, James. Great
Yeah.
presentation. And as always, I'm very passionate about the work that we do at SACOG, and it makes a real difference. And thank you so much for coming out and speaking to us.
We honestly see you all as a bit of a bellwether community. We know you're in some ways you're hemmed in, you're landlocked, right? And I think many of our communities are already there or will be there soon. And so the question is, right, how do you, that's why actually I love your motto and everything you've done and thought about that, right? Because how do we keep growing even if we're actually can't go out, right? How do you maintain a great quality of life and a great place for families? So you've got a great staff. You guys are very engaged in SACOG and really appreciate the partnership.
Thank you. Okay, next item, please.
Next item is comments by council members and regional board updates.
All right, Mr. Miller, what have you been up to?
Well, I just got back from camping at Lake Tahoe, but I did have a chance to attend the RT meeting virtually from the campground, and nothing of note for Citrus Heights. We did have a electrical emergency where we needed 4/5 of a vote, and we couldn't get the one director we needed to attend, so we have to do that in a couple of weeks. So that emergency still exists. But I did want to mention the free rides from regional transit for any kid K through 12. Just go to the SAC-RT website and sign up. And this is a little devious adult thing. We want the kids to start riding transit and see what it's like and know how to navigate both the bus system and light rail. So You know how that works when you're a parent. You trick them into trying something. So that's all I have to report today.
Okay, Mr. Daniels.
Had an air board meeting today. Nothing to report out of it right now. Just going to follow up on something that happened with that and then report back in 2 weeks. And that's it.
Ms. Burns.
Thank you. So Regional SAN met yesterday, and we had a couple of really significant things that were reported on. First of all, we have this harvest water program, which is where we recapture the water that's gone through the treatment plant and is flowing down the Sacramento River. And we use it for irrigating farmland, parks, golf courses and so forth, but mainly farmland. And that program has been mainly grant funded, and it's very exciting. I wish that we had it up here, but we're all built out and we don't really have the opportunity to irrigate farmland in Citrus Heights. So this is an ongoing program. The district has won several national awards for conservation, for recapturing our own water rather than sending it all down to Southern California and using it as a local resource in our own area. So it was very exciting to see how far along that has come. And secondly, there has been talk for a long time, many years actually, about two things that are kind of infrastructure things within Regional SAN. One is to talk about future staffing. So Regional Sanitation District and Sacramento Sewer District are two districts that get our sewage down to the wastewater treatment plant. And but their employees are county employees. They're not Regional SAN employees. So we've had a discussion. I've served on a subcommittee to take a look at and analyze this. And so this is an ongoing effort, and we're talking with the county about it. Some of the challenges are that our job classifications within Regional SAN and within the county don't sync with each other. So we did recommend that the staff move it forward. We have three options to choose from, and the third one being somewhat of a hybrid option. So that is an ongoing effort, and that will be moving forward throughout this year and into next year. And I think the end result will be that Regional SAN will have their own employees, at least in the large part. The second part of that is the fact that since Regional SAN and Sac Sewer have been, Regional SAN consolidated 35, 40 years ago, a lot of little sanitation districts into one big one. We've had two districts. We've had what I've often called here the big pipes and the little pipes. And so we're looking at that as maybe a passé model and the opportunity to consolidate them into one district. Not only would there be economies of scale, but there would be, it would resolve some redundancy. And so that got a lot of interest from the board as well. So we've directed staff to continue to look at that. The plan would be implemented without loss of jobs. So that's a key component of that. And so that will be studied by a subcommittee going on too. But so those are two very large structural changes within Regional SAN as it moves forward to serve the rest of this decade and on into the future. And the only other thing I wanted to bring up is I just wanted to acknowledge and honor one of our citizens, Jim Cook, who is the older brother of Bill Cook, who most of us know through the Citrus Heights Community Marching Band. He and his wife Kathy formed that about 20 years ago. Well, Jim Cook and his wife Bertha used to sit right over there in our city council meetings in the old building every council session. And eventually he brought little brother Bill and Kathy along. And Jim passed away Sunday evening. And so he gave a lot to this community. He was 82. And so there will be a viewing on the 1st of September from 4 to 8 at Reichert's funeral house. And then the following day on the 2nd at 10 a.m., there'll be a service under the gazebo at Sylvan Cemetery for anyone who would like to attend and honor him. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Schaefer.
Thank you, Mayor. So I didn't have any board meetings, but I did speak at both the Area 5 and the Area 10 meetings. I was delighted to see such a great turnout at both meetings. The questions were very engaging, and the excitement is clear that people are excited about coming back together after pandemic. They're excited about the direction the city is heading. And so there were some really, and I want to thank Mary Poole and Hunter Young for presenting at the, there's going to be some redevelopment happening on the sort of the south end of Sylvan Road or San Juan Avenue. So very informative, appreciate that. And so that was great. And like I said, very engaging. I also want to take a minute to thank Michael Lagomarsino. I just want to help clarify a little bit on why it's important that that no endorsements go out from the neighborhood associations on an official basis. REACH, which is the Residents Empowerment Association of Citrus Heights, is a 501(c)(3) C3 nonprofit, and endorsements by a nonprofit for political purposes are against the IRS code. So they could jeopardize their nonprofit status by endorsing any candidate. So thank you, Michael. I appreciate that you bringing that forward. And one other thing is, on a more fun note, is today, August 25th, is National Banana Split Day. This August 25th, National Banana Split Day. And believe it or not, the banana split was invented in a pharmacy, not in an ice cream shop. And it was a pharmaceutical apprentice that actually, they had a soda fountain, because the soda fountains were in the, at that time in the pharmacies, and he was experimenting and he had a hit. And so the local college students were willing to pay double the cost from an ice cream sundae. And so that happened in 1904. So go out and have a nice banana split tonight.
Mayor, I'm buying if you're paying.
Have a great time. Thanks.
Thank you. I have nothing to report, so we'll just move on to the next item, please.
Next item is consent calendar items 5 and 6.
Pleasure of the council.
I'll move approval.
Second.
A motion by Bruins. I will give the second to Vice Mayor Schaefer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? So moved. Next item, please.
Next item is regular calendar, item number 7. The subject is designation of voting delegate and alternates for the League of California Cities Annual Conference. The recommendation is that the city council designate a voting delegate and up to 2 alternates to participate at the annual business meeting on September 9th, 2022 during the League of California Cities Annual Conference.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Haley Reed, Management Analyst with the City Clerk's Office. Tonight, I bring before you an item to designate a voting delegate for the League of California Cities Annual Conference. The voting delegate will represent the City of Citrus Heights at the annual business meeting taking place on Friday, September 9th. There are no resolutions to be voted on during the business meeting this year, but the voting delegate will vote to accept amendments to the league bylaws, and the packet was included in your agenda packet. The only council member currently registered to attend the conference is Mayor Middleton. So with that, staff recommends the city council designate a voting delegate to participate at the annual business meeting during the League of California Cities Annual Conference. If you have any questions, please let me know.
I move that we nominate Mayor Middleton.
Second.
Motion by Bruins, second by Miller. All those in favor?
Aye. You can't even
Opposed?
take a step back.
Okay, motion passes. Next item, please.
Next item is regular calendar, item number 8. The subject is Community Block Party Trailer Program Approval. The recommendation is that the City Council approve the Citrus Heights Community Block Party Trailer Program.
Okay, good evening, Mayor Middleton and members of City Council. I'm Megan Huber, Economic Development and Community Engagement Director. Along with me is
Chris Myers, General Services Department. Excuse me.
and we have a really fun and exciting agenda item to present to you this evening. It's a culmination of council direction that originated at our latest strategic planning retreat on May 10th. City Council gave staff a goal to present to you for consideration a proposal to purchase and outfit a Citrus Heights block party trailer available to community groups to rent, stocked with essentials to host events. And as background for the public, this specific goal is a part of a larger community goal that has been set via a strategic work plan memo that will be implemented over the course of the next 2 years. In total, it has 4 categories, and this goal in particular is directly related to the second category, which is to increase community connection here at the City of Citrus Heights. As we emerge from COVID-19 and public health orders, we know our residents and community champions are really hungry to come back together. So staff brainstormed ideas on how we would be able to do that and received this goal from City Council and have been very enthusiastic to work on it. At May 26th, City Council received a presentation on plans for the community block party trailer scope. And on June 23rd, there was a budget update to allocate $50,000 of American Rescue Plan Act funding for project implementation, which means we were off to the races to be able to procure everything needed to be able to make this exciting project happen. And here are the results so far.
The block party trailer will be available to rent for neighborhood associations and community groups to host neighborhood events. The block party trailer will come stocked with all the essentials to host a neighborhood block party, including tables, chairs, coolers, barricades, cones, lawn games, a Bluetooth small sound system, trash receptacles, and quite a few other items as well.
So I want to take a quick minute to expand on the definition of community groups. There are a plethora of really important community groups in Citrus Heights that make up our community fabric. You heard earlier from our neighborhood associations as well as REACH, their governing body. We also have our Connect Citrus Heights group, whose creation was a strategic goal. And it is the entire depth and breadth of community groups. So everything from religious organizations to amateur sports organizations to our Chamber of Commerce and business associations. The list goes on and on. So a great goal that will be achieved with the implementation of this project is to give them both the figurative and literal means to increase community connection and provide ready infrastructure. So hypothetically, on this day next year, Neighborhood Association 5 could host a national banana split party. So the action item before you this evening is to review and consider approval of the program guidelines. Staff did extensive research on other jurisdiction programs really across the nation to make sure we were designing just right for our community and our intentions. So for eligibility, as I mentioned, this will be available to Citrus Heights neighborhood associations and community groups and other similar groups who are registered with our community engagement team. This will be the first program rolled out of our community engagement portion of the Economic Development and Community Engagement Department. As I mentioned, the definition of community group, our intention is to make it as wide as possible. In terms of eligibility, individual residents and businesses would not be eligible to reserve because the intention really is to bring community groups together, not make this available for private events.
Can I ask a question about that?
Absolutely.
So what if a neighborhood watch group, which are all private volunteer citizens,
Mhm.
or a group of neighbors within a development wanted to host an event for all of their neighbors, so they're individuals, but if they came together as a group to do it, could they do it?
Yes, we would figure out how to register them as a subgroup, hopefully, of a neighborhood association. That really pulls through the thread of this program creating value for neighborhood associations to come and work together.
I'm not talking about the formal neighborhood associations. I'm talking about a group of neighbors who wanted to host a neighborhood event for their development. Let's just say there's 100 homes in it.
Mhm.
But they're not an HOA, they're just people.
Sure.
But they wanted to come together to achieve the very thing this is for, which is to bring out their neighbors, get to know each other and have a barbecue or whatever.
Absolutely.
Could they do that?
Yes.
Okay.
We would figure out how to make that happen. And we can talk through that, what that would look like a little bit more in the application process to give you a better idea of the functionality of the program. So 1 through 5, right? To reserve the trailer, reservations would be based on availability and on a first come, first served basis. We would like to give preference to groups who are reserving for the first time to make sure we're catalyzing new community connection. And we ask that reservations be made no sooner than 6 months in advance to the event and no later than 2 weeks before the event, because whether we like it or not, there is some paperwork to be done and we have to make time for it. The reservation process begins once the application is submitted to community engagement, and we'd ask that it be received no less than 30 days prior to the event date. So the process, and Councilmember Bruins, hopefully this can answer that question a little more here. To begin, an interested party would complete the block party trailer application and submit it to community engagement, and we'll register that organization or group and confirm the dates available and arrange a drop-off and pickup time and location. Now, the next step will be for these applicants to complete a rental agreement and program waiver, including proof of insurance information. The community group or individual representing a community group can utilize their own event insurance, providing it meets minimum policy requirements, or they can utilize the event insurance that is offered through the city as well, which is a great resource. Event insurance requirements will vary based on the location of the event. So the main differentiator there is if we're hosting an event on public or private property, what we would be looking for in an application, Councilmember Bruins, to answer your question, if it is an individual in a neighborhood wanting to host a block party, we would be looking for that to be in a public location. So they would file for a street closure permit to host a classic version of a block party, and we would make sure that gets through. If it's private property, a good example of that would be, let's say folks come together and want to have a taco extravaganza in a commercial surplus parking lot right outside their neighborhood, and they get that property owner's approval. That would be on private property, which would require a different style of event insurance and that property owner's approval. So the process of approval will look a little bit like a flow chart, and we'll design that to make sure it's very clear for applicants. And the management analyst with community engagement will liaison with the applicant the entire time to make it as simple a process as possible. Does that answer your question, Councilmember Bruins? Okay, fantastic. So as I mentioned, depending on the location, there would be applicable permits. Public locations would require a street closure permit. Varied locations could require also a temporary use permit. We would make sure that's very clear in the program materials, which would be very smartly branded as well.
Okay, trailer deliveries and pickup would only occur during normal business hours, Monday through Friday at a pre-approved location. The applicant must be over 21. An applicant over 21 must be present at the time of the drop-off for orientation and pickup for inspection. Applicant may not relocate or move the trailer at any time. A city employee will pick up the block party trailer during an agreed upon time window on a Monday morning following the neighborhood event.
So as I mentioned, the Community Block Party Trailer Program will be the first community engagement program rolled out of the newly formed Economic Development and Community Engagement Department. Program launch is anticipated in the fourth quarter of this year. And that's really related to the fact that a management analyst position is currently open, and that role will administer the registration and reservations process. Our communications officer will assist with program branding and regular promotion. And I really want to take a moment to recognize my colleague, Chris Myers, because facilities department will be facilitating and coordinating deliveries and pickups, which is a significant part of this program as well. So it truly is a shared lift and exciting to offer from all departments. So with that, staff recommends City Council approve the Citrus Heights Community Block Party Trailer Program guidelines, and I will open it up for any questions.
If we could hold off on questions or comments and take the public comment from Michael Largamacino.
Good evening, members of the City Council and Megan. Megan and I met Tuesday, I believe. She asked if I'd be willing to come up and speak for or against this program. From what I've seen so far, from what Megan's presented and my previous conversations with her at City Hall, I can't see anything bad about this as long as the people that rent it return it in the condition which they got it. I'm responsible for the volunteer trailer at PD. And I know how much it takes to maintain the trailer at times. However, it's definitely doable. I think it's a great opportunity for the city to get out. And Megan, I would like for you to consider, if you haven't already, Sunday Fun Day, putting it with necessary information in the park for
Count on
Sunday
it.
Fun Day.
Absolutely.
So that way you getting the word out, they'll see the trailer. And I think it's a great opportunity to promote it myself. As you know, I do sit on several other places, but this is not recommending from anything else but my own personal recommendation. I would like to recommend City Council seriously consider this and approve it. Thank you very much.
Some questions. Now, this is a rental, and I know these are guidelines, but as we are wont to do, I want to get down in the weeds. What's the rental cost? Do we have any? And what's the magnitude of the insurance? It seems like a great idea is getting very expensive. And permits, I mean, and I think those are already set. We can't have a separate policy on the permit fees for.
Correct. Permit costs are set. Our intention is to offer the community block party trailer program free of charge. And I can't speak to private event insurance, but currently the event insurance that the city offers is $134.
That's not too bad.
It's based on attendee and the minimum is 125
That
for 100 people or less.
$1 million or $2 million we asked for?
It's $1 million with 2 million aggregate.
Okay. I would suggest just in the language, not return it Monday morning, but the next business day would kind of cover all circumstances, including holidays, Chris. That's the weeds part. I think that's all the questions I had was the costs. Mike mentioned cleaning issues. Is there going to be a cleaning deposit or anything along those lines? Or is that, see how it goes?
Yeah, since this is the pilot of the program, we can certainly see how it goes. As part of the application bundle, we will include a code of conduct so that shared expectations are very clear, that we return things the way we received them. And then certainly we will make note in each transaction, what we are experiencing, and if we need to make modifications, we certainly can. Chris, as the equipment expert, do you have anything to add to that?
No, they'll have an inventory sheet that they'll be gone over with every time that we drop that off. And then we'll go through that when we pick it up with them, that they have to sign off on it, just like you have a small event. Same process.
Thank you. Chris, Megan?
Yeah, Councilmember Miller whacked down all my weeds, I think. So just on that language right there of no sooner than 6 months and no later than 2 weeks. And maybe I'm just reading this wrong, but then it says on the bottom, all paperwork, you want it all to be in with no less than 30 days.
Yeah,
Is that conflicting?
that is conflicting.
Okay, good, because I thought I'm not just reading it
No,
right.
the math doesn't add up. Let's call it 30, just to make sure we've got the time.
And I understand you want it at 30, but I hope if somebody comes in and they got something that came up and they want to do something in 25 days or something like that, that we can look at that and try to make that work. But certainly we want to get it in as soon as possible. But sometimes things just come up and somebody, some sort of celebration that wasn't thought about pops up and we want to do something. I would hope that we don't close the door and say, no, that's 29
Absolutely.
days. Sorry, buddy.
The goal is community connection. So we'll do whatever we can to achieve that. On the flip side of the coin, it was important to us to put that reservations are based on availability because we are also working with internal staff bandwidth, especially in the facilities department with drop off and pickup. So
Chris doesn't have anything to do. So it's just like, thank you. Great work on this.
I'd just like to dovetail on council members Daniel's comments, and that is, if you're trying to promote something like this and you're trying to do it unless you're trying to promote and get people to come out in less than 30 days, try to put this together in 2 weeks and have somebody actually show up. 30 days is very reasonable. So
plan a good party
absolutely.
or a banana split party.
Well, that's true. Having planned many events in my lifetime, it's almost impossible to plan an event of any magnitude in 30 days. So I think that's a fair parameter. I had a thought. Oh, I'm very happy to see that we're going to do this, at least initially, without charge. I would highly recommend, though, that we do take a deposit, just like we do at the community centers when we rent it. Deposit gets returned after the event if everything is fine. So I recommend that we come up with a dollar amount for a deposit with the intention of returning it unless they damage something, because we have to cover that. The other thing I want to just comment on, I know that we have to have our ducks in a row with insurance and all of those parameters, but I'm hoping that the application itself will not be undaunting, and it will be something that the average person can get through in a short period of time without feeling overwhelmed by the magnitude of the application process.
Absolutely. We are totally committed to that.
Love it. Love it. Can't wait for it to happen.
Okay. What's the will of the council?
Well, then I with that, and having said that, I would like to move approval of the block party trailer program as presented.
All right, second.
Motion by Bruin, second by Schaefer, Vice Mayor Schaefer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Yay, party time.
Next item, please.
Next item is regular calendar, item number 9. The subject is approval of memorandum of understanding with the Life Foundation related to the Auburn Oaks facility at 7501 Sunrise Boulevard. Staff recommends the adoption of a resolution authorizing the city to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Life Foundation related to the Auburn Oaks Affordable Senior Housing Project and approve the memorandum of understanding.
Evening, Mayor, members of the council. Ashley Finney, your city manager, along with City Attorney Ryan Jones, will be presenting this item tonight. We do have some presentation slides that are coming up. And as Ms. Van said, this is a request for approval of a resolution to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Life Foundation. The Auburn Oaks Senior Apartments, there's been some media discussion in the community about that. So tonight, we're really here to give an overview in open session and hit the highlights on what this is. But just to get by way of background, if we go to the first slide here. Back in June, early summer, June 2022, Life Foundation contacted the city about an opportunity to pursue a collaborative grant application. There's a grant program called the Community Care Expansion Program. And what that provides for are acquisition opportunities where there can be a facility that helps with senior housing or really kind of helps prevent homelessness from happening, keeps people in their homes. So it's a great program. We haven't seen it used a lot in this area of the state. It's been used in Southern California and Northern California, but in our region, we haven't seen a whole lot of it, but it's an opportunity that we've learned quite a bit about over the last couple of months. In June and July of this year, our staff had a number of introductory meetings with the Life Foundation and really kind of dug into this grant program as well as the proposal. And on August 11th, the City Council gave direction to the city manager to execute a non-binding letter of intent that laid out some general terms that were provided that would then be put into a binding memorandum of understanding, which is here for you tonight. So if we can go to the next slide, a little bit about the property history. It was built in 1975. It was built as a senior residential facility. It was owned by the Zimmerman family for quite a bit of time there, 45 years. In the early 80s, it was converted from senior residential facility to assisted living, immediate care facility. Basically, it served seniors in the community for a very long time. It was acquired in 2020. Goodwill entered into a lease in 2020 as well. And it's currently serving as a combination of independent and semi-independent units. And when the semi-independent units are spoken to, they receive some communal food provision. So that's currently what's being operated under that Goodwill lease structure. It was listed for sale this year and is currently under contract for acquisition by the Life Foundation. 130 total units. You can see a picture of it here. It actually has a 3% vacancy rate. So you can see there's quite a bit of demand for this property. And as I mentioned before, senior serving. By way of orientation, it is just south of the intersection of Old Auburn Road and Sunrise Boulevard. It's outlined in the red dashes on this aerial here. But you can see it's proximate to Citrus Heights Plaza, which has a lot of neighborhood serving uses. There's a McDonald's, a couple of gas stations nearby, and there's also the Sunrise Point project across the street, which this council is familiar with. This is just a site plan that we pulled up. We thought we would just orient the council and the community to the site. You can see it has a parking lot that wraps as well as some large landscape areas. There's a 2-story building on the north side of the property, and then there's a single-story units to the south. And this is an older site plan. As I mentioned, the current configuration is approximately 130 units. One thing to note is, who would this serve? In the staff report, we had income levels spoken to as well as anticipated rents. But this is senior population market data and senior from an age qualification standpoint, seems like a young age to me, but 55 plus is where that starts. And as you can see in here, if you go through those first 4 income categories, just north of 50,000 would qualify for the low income. And there's various income levels, but basically those 4 income categories, those first 4, those constitute approximately 33% of the age qualified households within Citrus Heights. And you can see this data was pulled from the radius ring to the right of the up to the spreadsheet there. And so it's very Citrus Heights centric. 3-mile trade area around there. Project goal. The goal of the Life Foundation in the city as proposed is to ensure the property remains in service to the senior community. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to City Attorney Jones, who will go over the salient terms of the MOU.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I wanted to highlight a few of the key terms in the memorandum of understanding that we're asking the council or recommending the council to adopt via resolution tonight. We have negotiated these terms and we find them to be fair and reasonable, especially from the perspective of the city. The first part is the city would collaborate with Life Foundation to pursue the grant that Mr. Feeney talked about, the Community Care Expansion Grant. We would be the sponsoring entity in that grant. Also, Life Foundation, they would be the owners of the land, and they would be the ones that would be responsible for both the management and operation of the senior housing project as opposed to the city. Though the city does have a role in that, in the sense that we can review and have approval rights for any changes in the management company as throughout the course of that property. And lastly, I think this is important, or final on this slide, important, I think, to the city council and to our constituents, there's no city funds being contributed to this project. Next slide, please. So the Life Foundation would provide, another benefit is they'd provide some community health education programs for both youth and families, again, local to Citrus Heights. Also, depending on, assuming there's going to be some cash flow that comes from the residents that pay rents there, the Life Foundation is looking to donate up to $100,000 annually to nonprofits in the region as directed by the city council. And then at the conclusion of, if the MOU is for a 20-year, memorandum of understanding is for a 20-year term, at the end of that term, two things can happen. One is if they find somebody else to continue on and use it in a very similar fashion to continue to serve seniors, that would be the case. But if not, it could be sold. And the proceeds from that sale, which would be significant, we would anticipate, would come back to the city in the sense that we have the ability to distribute them to supporting local nonprofits in the region. Now, all this is contingent upon the grant being awarded. And these are the key terms of the memorandum of understanding. And next slide. We are recommending as staff to approve the resolution, and the resolution would give the city the ability to enter into the memorandum of understanding that we just talked about. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Questions?
So full disclosure, my wife is a director of care for a fairly large assisted living facility. And one of the things that I've learned over the years of living with her is there's an incredible amount of confusion when it comes time for a parent to be placed, if there's no relatives involved. At what point does that person decide, okay, it's time to move into this type of facility? And it's quite expensive. It's very, very expensive, as a matter of fact. I think about, on the low end, it's about $5,000 a month, going up to $15,000 a month. So it's great that we're getting involved in this. I think this is a wonderful thing. I do wonder what people do when they can't fund that kind of living expense. I am curious about the 40 beds of skilled living, skilled nursing facility. Is that?
I don't think that exists now.
Well, that does not
It did
exist now. That would be the future.
No, that was original.
That was originally, okay. So this is strictly independent living now.
That's correct. It's independent living, but as the operation plan, as well as the management company, to the extent there are, like say, an extremely low income household, there would be some wraparound services for those folks. But that original site plan, that is a site plan from the 90s. It was just for an example purposes. It's not in that configuration, its current state.
Right, that's clear. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I just want to make sure the public understands what we're doing and what we're not doing. This is not a homeless shelter, okay? So any buzz out there on social media and that kind of thing, it just needs to stop. But what this is the ability to step up and do what needs to be done for what we see happening, in our city, our county, our state, our nation. And that is people getting to a point to where there's no place to live, and so this is what creates that. And this keeps 130 people. And I don't know if you can share a room. I don't know if couples can share rooms, but at least 130 people from ending up on the streets. And nothing breaks my heart more than seeing some senior person on the street. My God, and it makes me just wonder, where's their family, where's their friends, whatever. But this will keep that from not happening. So I'm very happy and proud actually to support this. I hope this goes through. I hope to God this goes through. But I think it's extremely important for the community to understand what we are doing and what we're not doing. Completely different things. This is something that will be a nice thing. Hopefully they'll be operated by good people. And it'll be a great opportunity for people to have some place to live and not have to be concerned about where they're going to live tomorrow. So.
What's the will of the council?
I will move approval of the memorandum of understanding with the Life Foundation.
Second.
Motion by Daniel, second by Vice Mayor Schaefer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? So moved. Next item, please.
The next item is department reports, and there are none. The next item is city manager items.
All right, just a few updates here. If we can go to the next slide. One thing that we wanted to, we'll certainly be having on our webpage and putting out there is typically at the end of August, the council will not hold their last meeting in August, but we're doing that this evening. And so, and we went ahead and did that because the September 8th meeting falls when the League of Cities Conference is being held. And so that meeting's being canceled. And our next city council meeting will be on September 22nd. This is a great moment here. The city was recognized, our general services team at the Sacramento chapter of American Public Works Association for the Mariposa Safe Routes to School project. And that was a great example of a successful partnership between the city, the school district, surrounding neighborhood residents and neighborhood association reps. And again, I know the council's well aware of this, but that's a culmination of about 20 years worth of work that was celebrated there. So kudos to the team. And you can even see, looks like Leslie Bloomquist was there in spirit. She couldn't be there that day, but it was fun to have her being part of the picture. So great job, team. And then we have exciting news on Police Academy graduates. Police officer recruits Matthew Ingbreston and Andre O'Neill, graduated from the Sacramento County Sheriff Office's Police Academy on August 22nd. They've received the Citrus Heights Police Office badges at their graduation ceremonies. You can see Chief Turcotte was in attendance, and they're beginning their field training program next week. So 2 new officers coming on. And that concludes my comments.
Next item, please.
Next item is items requested by council members or future agenda items.
You have an item?
Okay.
So I'm following Thomas Spencer's suggestion. I would like to look for us to look at naming that park on Greenback Lane.
Support that.
The park on Greenback Lane.
Oh.
This didn't it have a name? No? Okay. Duplex Park.
Okay, I've got 2 out of 3. I'll be the third.
Why don't we leave it to our economic development and director to put together, or someone to put together a way to do that?
I would say as long as it's not after a person.
Some community input or something,
Yeah.
Okay,
We'll bring that item back.
thank you. Okay, next item.
Next item are two closed session items. So at this time, council would adjourn to closed session.
Okay, we'll be adjourning.